It has been said that poetry is the music of the gods. I'd rather say that poetry is the music of every man and woman who raised themselves above the humdrum of life and experienced the aesthetical need of a very special type of communication, a communication that stirs the feelings with inspiration, that leads to aspiration, that leads to some kind of action. If it doesn't do that, then it's not the music of the gods, nor of humans, but of commercial humdrum. At one time, I made it a practice to attend poetry readings and was appalled by the utter lack of artistry in the ramblings of so-called poets who use poetry as a justification for their laziness in taking care of themselves and in living off the efforts of others. I did some research and found that most poets and artists in other media have no idea what makes a work of art. To them, it is all subjective, and whatever emotion they write down can be called poetry. Not so, I say. First of all art is communication. But it is a special kind of communication using the intention of the artist to awaken emotions, ideas, and the imagination of the listener or viewer. In poetry, the ideas, emotions, and general communication of the theme make use of certain words arranged in a metaphorical way calculated to evoke the emotions, ideas, and imagination of the reader or listener. Actually, this calculation is really the artist communicating with himself. He, she, in the process of invoking the emotions to him, herself, automatically evokes them in others. The best way to experience poetry is to write a poem. So, write a poem. What? You don't know how to write a poem? Well, it's not that difficult if one has an idea of what poetry is. Many modern poets write poetry that isn't poetry. Poetry, being a special type of communication, like all the arts, has an implicit rationale. To make a very long story short, let me give an example. I feel poetic one day, so I write, "The sun is so beautiful today, I think I'll go to the beach." Now, no matter how I arrange the lines to look fancy and important, it isn't poetry. Along comes the modern New Age existentialist and says, "Why not?" And I answer, "Because it isn't poetry. It's just an ordinary statement. It was not written with the intention of affecting the emotions and therefore one's sense of aesthetics. Just as jazz must swing, so poetry must inspire, uplift, and or affect the emotions in such a way that the reader or listener feels lifted from the humdrum of life if he's living at effect, or feels euphoric if he's the cause of his own life. The subject of the poem doesn't much matter as long as the words convey the message in such a way that the reader breathes deeply and says, "Wow." Although some good poetry is depressing, it is still art, however devoid of art's special gift of celebrating life. So, "The sun is beautiful today, I think I'll go to the beach," is the idea that you want to communicate. To make that poetry, you need to make use of 1. Musical scintillating words. 2. Metaphors that enliven the sense faculties and make suggestions to the mind. 3. Good phrasing, commas in the right places to enhance the meaning and therefore the feeling. Now, using your imagination and visualization and your sense of grandeur, you turn the statement into, The glory of the sun whispers to my mind reflected vistas of blue azure and soothing waves kissing the golden sand of the shore. You see what I've done? I took a simple statement, the sun is so beautiful today, I think I'll go to the beach, and turned it into metaphors through musical words suggestive of colors, coolness and heat, space, lying on the sand, etc., that evoke in another the desire to go to the beach, to perform an action. The way it looks on paper can be a personal thing, but it must have some kind of rationale based on proper phrasing. Phrasing is where you put the commas. My personal style uses a minimum of commas, for I separate the fragments of thought by ending a line where a comma should be. So in our poem above, I would write the first line as the glory of the sun, then whispers to my mind as the second line, then reflected vistas as the third line, of blue azure and soothing waves as the fourth line, and the fifth line as kissing the golden sand of the shore. Okay, write a poem.